Hey, welcome back to Bridges. My name is Donnie Miller. Have you heard of Sergeant Henry Lincoln Johnson? Well, if you haven't, you are going to hear an amazing story of bravery today and a commitment by this family to make sure that this bravery is recognized. I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm going to let his granddaughter tell you about it. I am so excited to have with me today Tara K. Johnson, who is the granddaughter of Sergeant Henry Lincoln Johnson. Good morning.
Good morning, Donnie. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Let's just get right to it. Tell us about your granddad.
Well, my grandfather was actually a small man. He was 5'4" and 130 pounds. And I say that up front so that you'll understand how amazing that story is. I am 5'3" and about 100.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Little bigger than my grandfather, you know.
But your go ahead.
So he always had a sense of himself, I understand. He had a beautiful sense of humor. He was a hard worker. He was a red cap in New York, and if anybody understands what that means back in the early 1900s, all of them were called George. They were not permitted to use their name. Their identity on the job was supposed to be anonymous. But he treated white folks and black folks the same and got him in trouble all the time.
And he actually excelled. He actually he did this wonderful thing when he was in the military.
Yes, he did.
What was that?
Well, in 1918, he joined the 369th National Guard in New York. They actually were trained with wooden rifles because, you know, black folks weren't supposed to be able to carry guns and stuff like that. So they didn't train them with actual military equipment. But anyway, they ended up going over to France and being stevedores, and they were not happy about that. They did extensive training and they wanted to fight for their country. That's why my grandfather took that opportunity. He wanted to show that he knew he was an American. He was going to fight for his country.
And in battle, he really, really distinguished himself by saving the lives of
his battalion.
All right, tell us about that.
Well, you know, he was on sentry duty with his friend Needham Roberts. And sentry duty, you're away from everybody and you are the lookout while everybody's rusting. And the Germans had made this command that they needed to capture a couple of these black guys because they didn't understand these black troops. And so 20 or more were coming into the territory where my grandfather was the sentry, and this battle ensued with them. They were really trying to capture them. He actually killed quite a few. He was shot and stabbed 20 times. They were carting off his friend Needham Roberts, and he was able to retrieve Needham and pull him back, and they fought them off and laid there until they were found the next morning.
In the information that I pulled on him, it says actually he fought them off with his knife, and even though he had sustained 3 grenade and shotgun wounds from the Germans, he was able to rescue his fellow soldier who was then taken prisoner by the enemy. And he kept fighting, your grandfather did, until everybody, that's right, he retrieved him and everybody went away. It's this amazing story, and because of that, he has been honored around the country.
Right. France gave him, right then and there, their highest medal, the coup de grace. And so, coup de guerre, I'm sorry. And so he was ecstatic. But you have to understand that France did something they weren't supposed to do. Actually, the United States told France, I understand you're treating our colored boys as equals. We ask you not to do that because when they come back, that is not the reception they're going to get. You know,
this is such an important story that the History Channel is actually going to show on October 13th. Is that right, Tara?
That's correct.
A movie called Colored Soldiers, in which Sergeant Henry Lincoln Johnson is featured. And I want to thank the History Channel for helping us pull this segment together. In fact, we have a photograph that they sent, Brian, if we can get that on air, of that they are using in that movie. That actually, oh, you can't see it quite that well, but what we have there is Belize LeRae, who is the host of the History Channel, actually holding up the picture of that particular battle. If you look down in the corner, you'll see the sergeant attacking a German with a knife. She's Miss LeRae is working with an expert, Vera Grant, and I'd like to especially thank Jennifer Novak of the History Channel for getting us this picture. It was a ferocious battle.
It was.
He again excelled in that, but your family's having trouble getting him the recognition in the United States that you think he deserves.
Well,
even though the rest of the world has acknowledged
normally with anybody that sustained those types of injuries, that excelled beyond imagination in armed services, they would be given the Congressional Medal of Honor. But back in 1918, African Americans were not afforded that opportunity when they did serve their country in that manner. And so he was never given that. He came back, and what was amazing to me, there is actually film footage of him in a convertible going down Main Street in New York, waving. And to me, that was like probably for him the best day of his life.
So the effort now is to get the Congressional Medal of Honor
That's
for
correct.
him. Are there any initiatives around that? Anything happening around that?
Actually, Donnie, Senator Schumer and his staff, Carol Wasserman, they have done a phenomenal job of research over the last couple of years, and they found new evidence. We were always stopped at the gate saying that there wasn't enough evidence, documentation from commanding officers that said that that actually happened, even though we had stories of it, even though it was in the newspaper. That poster that started this whole History Channel thing was a poster that was created by a white guy that heard the story, and he created that poster to depict that battle. There are so many records of that, but they were saying we didn't have enough. They found new evidence, new letters from commanding officers saying that that is exactly what happened.
So this mild, meek stevedore who always put himself below everyone else actually saved his countrymen on this battlefield alone, fought off dozens of Germans, according to the newsreel that I found. And you're having trouble getting recognition for that.
Right.
Okay.
And you know, I'm going to be honest with you. This last submission that Schumer's office has submitted has been said to be the best that has ever been submitted by anybody in the history of this country.
And it's submitted to where? To D.C.?
Well, it's actually submitted to the Department of Army.
Okay.
And so they have to review it, other people have to review it, and then they have to come back together and say that this meets the criteria and that they're going to do it. They say it's the best it's ever been, and so if we don't get it this time, I'm pretty sure that it's just never going to happen.
He has had some recognition, though, here
Yes,
in the
he has.
States. Your dad accepted an honor for him.
Right.
And what was that?
That was the Distinguished Service Cross.
Okay.
That happened under the Bush administration. Actually, it was submitted for the Congressional Medal, and they said, no, you don't have enough evidence for that, but you have enough evidence for this.
Okay.
We were given the Purple Heart by the Clinton administration. After all that time, he had never even gotten a Purple Heart for what he did, for his wounds. He had 22 wounds. It was hard for him to work. He lost his family behind that war.
No kidding.
Yeah. You know, he came back and he had 3 boys. My father was the oldest, and he came back and wasn't able to work. And my grandfather, my grandmother's father, my great-grandfather, was a minister. And my grandfather came back being an activist, saying that these guys were not treated fairly, and he was being an advocate. And my great-grandfather, who's a minister, was like, you cannot be this proud black man causing all this rift with my daughter and the kids.
Well, now, though, there is this effort to acknowledge him, and we will keep you involved in that as we move forward. Gosh, we got to go away. We never have enough time, but stay with us. We will be right back.